We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 25. Tam aha lalitam vira
Tam aha lalitam gira
savrida smita shobhana
sarvada smita shobhana
snigdhena panga punkhena
snigdhena panga punkhena
sprishta premod brahmad bhruva.
prishta premo brahmadruva.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Purañjana, the hero, became attracted by the eyebrows and smiling face of the very beautiful girl and was immediately pierced by the arrows of her lusty desires. When she smiled shyly, she looked very beautiful to Purañjana, who, although a hero, could not refrain from addressing her. Every living entity is a hero in two ways. So we have been saying Purañjana is is each and every one of us, the living entity. When he is a victim of the illusory energy, he works as a great hero in the material world, as a great leader, politician, businessman, industrialist, etc. And his heroic activities contribute to the material advancement of civilization. One can also become a hero by being master of the senses, a Goswami. So, so Prabhupada is helping us understand two types of heroes. One who becomes a hero in material activities and one who is becoming a hero in the spiritual activities. Material activities are false heroic activities, whereas restraining the senses from material engagement is great heroism. However great a hero one may be in the material world, he can be immediately conquered by the lumps of flesh and blood known as the breasts of women. In the history of material activities, there are many examples, like the Roman hero Antony, who became captivated by the beauty of Cleopatra. Similarly, a great hero in India named Ajirao became a victim of a woman during the time of Maharashtrian politics, and he was defeated. From history, we understand that formerly politicians used to employ beautiful girls who were trained as Vishkanya. These girls had poison injected into their bodies from the beginning of their lives, so that in due course of time, they would become so immune to the poison and so poisonous themselves that simply by kissing a person, they could kill him. These poisonous girls were engaged to see an enemy and kill him with a kiss. Thus, there are many instances in human history of heroes who have been curbed simply by women. Being part and parcel of Krishna, the living entity is certainly a great hero, but due to his own weakness, he becomes attracted to the material features. Actually, we are all great. Why? Because we are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is the greatest, and we are part of the greatest. So, and that's the reason we are always trying to show how great we are, because inherently we are the soul, not the body. But because of our mistake, we are thinking we are the body, so we are trying to become great with the body. Krishna Bahirmukha Hana Bhoga Manchakare Nikata Sthamaya Tare Japati Adhare. It is said in the Prema Vivarta that when a living entity wants to enjoy material nature, he is immediately victimized by the material energy. A living entity is not forced to come into the material world. He makes his own choice, being attracted by beautiful women. Every living entity has the freedom to be attracted by material nature or to stand as a hero and resist that attraction. It is simply a question of the living entities being attracted or not being attracted. There is no question of his being forced to come into contact with material energy. So, we sometimes say, oh God, why did you put me in this material world? Why did you create this material world? Well, it's our own desire, our choice. We have a free will and we are responsible for it. So, one who can keep himself steady and resist the attraction of material nature is certainly a hero and deserves to be called a Goswami. Unless one is master of the senses, he cannot become a Goswami. The living entity can take one of two positions in this world. He may become a servant of his senses, or he may become master of them. By becoming a servant of the senses, one becomes a great material hero, and by becoming master of the senses, he becomes a Goswami or spiritual hero. So this choice is also with us. How much we want to enjoy the material world, or how much we want to engage our senses in the service of Krishna. When we engage the senses in service of Krishna, they are automatically controlled. Katvam Kanjapala Shakshi
Vahvam Kanjapala Sakshi
Kasya Siha Kuta Sati
Tasya Siva Kuta Sakti
Imam Upa Purim Bhiru
Imam Upapurim Viru
Kim Chikir Shashis Shamsame.
Kim Chipi Sapi Samsamam.
My dear Lotus Eyed, kindly explain to me where you are coming from, who you are, and whose daughter you are. You appear very chaste. What is the purpose of your coming here? What are you trying to do? Please explain all these things to me. The first aphorism in the Vedanta Sutra is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. In the human form of life, one should put many questions to himself and to his intelligence. Human life begins with the inquiry, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Let's begin inquiry, into the truth. That is beginning of human life. In the various forms of life lower than human life, the intelligence does not go beyond the range of life's primary necessities, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Dogs, cats, and tigers are always busy trying to find something to eat or a place to sleep, or trying to defend and have sexual intercourse successfully. In the human form of life, however, one should be intelligent enough to ask what he is, why he has come into the world, and what his duty is. Who is the supreme controller? What is the difference between dull matter and the living entity, etc.? So, in the animal body, we don't have that intelligence uh, to ask, oh, who am I? Who's the Supreme Lord? What is my duty? But in human form of life, we can ask because our intelligence is capable of finding out these answers. So, what is the difference between dull matter and living entity? We are so attracted to things, our possessions, but that's actually just dull matter, different combination and permutation of the material elements, earth, water, air, fire, ether. We are so attached to our whatever, clothes, shoes, bags, but it's dull matter. But the living entity, the soul, that's spiritual. There are so many questions, and the person who's actually intelligent should simply inquire about the supreme source of everything, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. A living entity is always connected with a certain amount of intelligence. But in the human form of life, the living entity must inquire about his spiritual identity. This is real human intelligence. It is said that one who is simply conscious of the body is no better than an animal, even though he be in the human form. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Sri Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham pridhisanivishto matasmritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. In the animal form, the living entity is completely forgetful of his relationship with God. This is called apohanam, or forgetfulness. In the human form of life, however, consciousness is more greatly developed, and consequently, the human being has a chance to understand his relationship with God. So that is the best use that we can do with this human body. Because in other body, we cannot do that. In animal body, we are totally in forgetfulness of our relationship with God. Each of us has a loving relationship with God. We simply have to revive it. It's there. But we have forgotten. Like, somebody gets a bump on their head and then they get amnesia. Then we have to remind them, oh, this is your house, this is your parents, this is your husband or wife or children. So similarly, the more we hear about Krishna from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the more we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, the more we can understand our relationship with God. In the human form, one should utilize his intelligence by asking all these questions. Just as Purañjana, the living entity, is asking the unknown girl where she has come from, what her business is, why she is present, etc. These are inquiries about Atma Tattva, self-realization. The conclusion is that unless a living entity is inquisitive about self-realization, he is nothing but an animal. So we can say, then we will, we might get offended. Oh, how come Bhagavatam is using such harsh words? But just to wake us up that, make good use of this human body, of this human intelligence, and revive our relationship with Krishna. In no way does Bhagavatam want to belittle us or condemn us. No, Bhagavatam is greatly compassionate on us and wants us to reestablish our relationship with Krishna. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Ka ete nupathayeta
Ka ete nupathayeta
ekadasha mahabhata
ekadasha mahabhata
etava lalana subhru
etava lalana subhi
koyam tehi purasara.
oyam tehi purasaraha.
My dear lotus eyed, who are those 11 strong bodyguards with you? And who are those 10 specific servants? Who are those women following the 10 servants? And who is the snake that is preceding you? The 10 strong servants of the mind are the 5 working senses and the 5 knowledge gathering senses. So, our working senses. Does anyone remember what are the working senses?
Our limbs, genitals, and the animal.
That's right. Mouth. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And the knowledge gathering senses?
Eyes, ears, nose, skin,
Yeah,
mouth.
that's right. Thank you. So all these 10 senses work under the aegis of the mind. So the mind is the king of the senses. The mind and the 10 senses combine to become 11 strong bodyguards. The hundreds of women under the jurisdiction of the senses are addressed here as Lalana. The mind works under the intelligence, and under the mind are the 10 senses, and under the 10 senses are innumerable desires to be fulfilled. All these, however, depend on the vital life force, which is here represented by the snake. As long as the vital life force is there, the mind works, and under the mind, the senses work, and the senses give rise to so many material desires. So the hierarchy is like that, that the soul is there, and under the soul is the intelligence, under the intelligence is the mind, under the mind are the senses. So we are supposed to control the senses with our mind. We're supposed to control our mind with our intelligence, And this intelligence is coming because the soul is there, present in the body, the consciousness is there. So how we can change our intelligence from material to spiritual? Because our intelligence is always, oh, how I can enjoy more, what I can do to enjoy. So how we can develop our spiritual intelligence? We need to hear I'm sorry?
Yeah, just
How?
chanting, reading, and hearing.
That's right. Yes, that's right. We hear from the scriptures, hear from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, chant the holy name. So we will develop our spiritual intelligence. So all these have, yeah. Actually, the living entity known as Purañjana is embarrassed by so much paraphernalia. All this paraphernalia simply constitutes different sources of anxiety. But one who is surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who leaves all business to Him is freed from such anxieties. So, we take anti-anxiety pills, but the real way to get free of anxiety is we need to surrender to Krishna. For us, it is very difficult. So our surrender happens in parts. At least let us begin that. We are not completely able to, someone may be able to completely surrender to Krishna in a moment, and someone may not be able to. So whatever is our position, we try, we hear and chant more and more. And the more we hear and chant, the more we surrender to Krishna. And to that degree, we give up our anxiety. We become lesser and lesser anxious. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj advises a person who has taken to the materialistic way of life, which is never permanent, but always temporary, to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and leave aside all his so-called responsibilities in order to get free from all anxieties. So then one may hear this and say, okay, now I'm going to leave my home. I have children and I have a family, but I'm going to leave everything. But Lord Chaitanya advises us not to prematurely leave. Krishna also says the same thing to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Don't prematurely give up that duty, but stay where we are and begin the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Of course, if one is already at that purified stage, one's heart is already purified, they leave and they can dedicate their lives completely to spiritual development. But for those who are not purified, it's recommended that we stay wherever we are and we continue to hear and chant. So then reading on. Vamhir Bhavani Asi Athava Ramapatim
Vamhir Bhavani Asi Athava Ramapatim
Vichinvati Kinmunivat Rahovane
Chinvati Kinnivadraho Vani
Tvadangirikam Mapta Samastakamam
Amritamapta Samastakamam
Padmakosha Patita Karagra Gra Gra My dear beautiful girl, you are exactly like the goddess of fortune, or the wife of Lord Shiva, or the goddess of learning, the wife of Lord Brahma. Although you must be one of them, I see that you are loitering in this forest. Indeed, you are as silent as the great sages. Is it that you are searching after your own husband? Whoever your husband may be, simply by understanding that you are so faithful to him, he will come to possess all opulences. I think you must be the goddess of fortune, but I do not see the lotus flower in your hand. Therefore, I am asking you where you have thrown that lotus. Everyone thinks that his intelligence is perfect. Sometimes one employs his intelligence in the worship of Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva, in order to obtain a beautiful wife. Sometimes, when one wants to become as learned as Lord Brahma, he employs his intelligence in the worship of the goddess of learning Saraswati. Sometimes, when one wishes to become as opulent as Lord Vishnu, he worships the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. In this verse, all these inquiries are made by King Purañjana, the living entity who is bewildered and does not know how to employ his intelligence. You know, we also get confused. Oh, what should I do? What choice should I make? What am I supposed to do now? What action should I be taking? And we each of us think, oh, my perception is correct. You know, we are so sure of our own perception. So intelligence should be employed in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Intelligence should be employed in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because that's the eternal position of the soul. That is our eternal position. We are eternally parts and parcels of Krishna. We are eternally servant of Krishna. The service of the soul is a service of love. You know, love. The mother loves the child, so she serves the child, or husband and wife love each other, so they serve each other, or parents, or sibling, you know. So it's a loving relationship. As soon as one uses his intelligence in this way, the goddess of fortune automatically becomes favorable to him. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, never remains without her husband, Lord Vishnu. Consequently, when worships Lord Vishnu, he automatically obtains the favor of the goddess of fortune. You know, we are always running after Lakshmi Devi. But if we simply can worship Lord Vishnu, if we can simply worship Lord Krishna, Lakshmi Devi will automatically come. Why? Because she's chaste wife. A chaste wife is always following the husband. One should not, like Ravana, worship the goddess of fortune alone, for she cannot remain long without her husband. Thus, her other name is Chanchala, or restless. So someone may worship Lakshmi Devi alone, but she may choose to leave at any time because she wants to search for her husband. In this verse, it is clear that Purañjana is representing our intelligence while he's talking with the girl. He not only appreciated the shyness of the girl, but actually became more and more attracted by that shyness. He was actually thinking of becoming her husband and consequently was asking her whether she was thinking of her prospective husband or whether she was married. This is an example of bhoga ichha, the desire for enjoyment. One who is attracted by such desires becomes conditioned in this material world, and one who is not so attracted attains liberation. King Purañjana was appreciating the beauty of the girl as if she were the goddess of fortune, but at the same time he was careful to understand that the goddess of fortune cannot be enjoyed by anyone except Lord Vishnu. Since he doubted whether the girl was the goddess of fortune, he inquired about the lotus flower she was not holding. The material world is also the goddess of fortune because the material energy works under the direction of Lord Vishnu, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharam. So this material world, material energy, she is Krishna's energy also. The original energy is his internal energy, his yoga maya. To give us this, to facilitate our material enjoyment. She expands as Durga Devi. Radharani expands as Durga Devi, as this material world to facilitate our material enjoyment. So that's why Prabhupada is saying material world is also the goddess of fortune. The original goddess of fortune is Srimati Radharani. And then all the other goddesses of fortune are her expansions. And Durga Devi is also her expansion. So, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. So, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that this material energy She's working under Krishna's supervision. We may think automatically things are happening, seasons are changing, days are going by, the sun is rising, sun is setting, flowers are blooming. It looks also automatic, but everything is happening under Krishna's supervision. The material world cannot be enjoyed by any living entity. If one so desires to enjoy it, he immediately becomes a demon like Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, or Kamsa. Because Ravan wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, he was vanquished with all his family, wealth, and opulence. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. So we are, we want sense enjoyment, we are conditioned, and that is our illusion. That is the Maya. Nasam varora anyat tama bhuvi sprik. Ure mimam vira varena sakam. Arhasi alankar tamabhat adabrakarmana. Lokam param shririvaya kyapumsa. O greatly fortunate one, it appears that you are none of the women I have mentioned, because I see that your feet are touching the ground. But if you are some woman of this planet, you can, like the goddess of fortune, who, accompanied by Lord Vishnu, increases the beauty of the Vaikuntha planets, also increase the beauty of this city by associating with me. You should understand that I'm a great hero and a very powerful king on this planet. There's a difference between demoniac mentality and devotional mentality. Devotees know perfectly well that the goddess of fortune, who is the constant companion of Vishnu or Narayan, cannot be enjoyed by a living entity. This higher sense of understanding is called Krishna consciousness. Nonetheless, everyone wants to become happy by imitating the prosperity of Narayan. We also want to imitate God. We see that He is the enjoyer, the controller, the owner, proprietor. So we want to imitate Him. In this verse, Purañjana states that the girl appears to be an ordinary woman. Well, it doesn't mean that we have no right to enjoy. No, the soul is always enjoying. Anandamayobhyasa. Krishna is always enjoying. The soul is always enjoying. But the soul, we living entities, can enjoy real enjoyment, the real pleasure, unlimited, unending. We can experience only in relation to Krishna, not otherwise. Because we are, after all, spirit souls. We are not matter. We are thinking we are matter. That's the reason we are searching for enjoyment in matter. So, also Purañjana is telling her, oh, I see your feet are touching the ground. The demigods, when they visit this earth planet, their feet don't touch the ground. They're always kind of like floating in the air. So in this verse, Purañjana states that the girl appears to be an ordinary woman. However, since he is attracted by her, he requests that she become as happy as the goddess of fortune by associating with him. Thus, he introduces himself as a great king with great influence, so that she might accept him as her husband and be as happy as the goddess of fortune. To desire to enjoy this material world as a subordinate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is godly. So the correct way to enjoy the material world, understanding our position in relation to Krishna. That Krishna is my Supreme Master and I am Krishna's eternal servant. That is how we can actually enjoy this material world. The demons, however, want to enjoy this material world without considering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the difference between a demon and demigod. So a demigod understands his position. Demigod also enjoys, but he understands his position in relation to Krishna. The word Bhuvisprit mentioned in this verse is very significant. When the demigods sometimes come to this planet, they do not touch the ground. Purañjana could understand that this girl did not belong to the transcendental world or the higher planetary system. Why? Because her feet were touching the ground. Since every woman in this world wants a husband to be very influential, rich, and powerful, Purañjana, to seduce the girl, introduced himself as such a personality. In the material world, whether one be a man or a woman, one wants to enjoy. A man wants to enjoy a beautiful woman, and a woman wants to enjoy a powerful, opulent man. Every living entity who possesses such material desires is called Purusha, an enjoyer. So, someone may be a man or a woman, but each of us have this enjoying spirit. We want to enjoy. So we are called Purusha. We are artificially trying to be the Purusha. The real Purusha actually is Krishna. Superficially, it appears that the woman is the enjoyed and the man is the enjoyer. But internally, everyone is an enjoyer. Consequently, everything in this material world is called Maya. So it may appear that the woman is being not being the enjoyer, but actually each of us are trying to fulfill our desires. Yadeshamapanga vikanditendriyam savreda bhava smita vibramad bruma vayo pashrishto bhagavan manobhava prabhadate thanugrahana shobhane. Certainly, your glancing upon me today has very much agitated my mind. Your smile, which is full of shyness, but at the same time lusty, is agitating the most powerful Cupid within me. Therefore, O most beautiful, I ask you to be merciful upon me. Everyone has lusty desires within, and as soon as one is agitated by the movement of a beautiful woman's eyebrows, the Cupid within immediately throws his arrow at the heart. Thus, one is quickly conquered by the arrows of a beautiful woman. When one is agitated by lusty desires, his senses are attracted by all kinds of vishaya, enjoyable things, like sound, touch, form, smell, and taste. These attractive sense objects oblige one to come under the control of a woman. In this way, the conditioned life of a living entity begins. Conditional life means being under the control of a woman, and certainly the living entity is always at the mercy of a woman or a man. Thus, living entities live in bondage to one another, and thus they continue this conditional material life illusion by Maya. So the man is trying to control the woman is trying to control the man, and in this way we are taking more and more bodies in this material world. This is conditioned life. We are not able to understand, oh, I'm not the body, I'm the soul. Tvadananam subrusutarilochanam vyalam vinilalakavrinda samritam punniyamidarshaya valguvachakam.
Niyamidashaya Vartivachakam
Yadvridayana vimukham shuchi smite.
Yadridayanadimukam Suchitachem.
My dear girl, your face is so beautiful with your nice eyebrows and eyes, and with your bluish hair scattered about. In addition, very sweet sounds are coming from your mouth. Nonetheless, you are so covered with shyness that you do not see me face to face. I therefore request you, my dear girl, to smile and kindly raise your head to see me. Such a speech is typical of a living entity attracted by the opposite sex. This is called bewilderment, occasioned by becoming conditioned by material nature. When thus attracted by the beauty of the material energy, one becomes very eager to enjoy. This is elaborately described in this instance of Purañjana's becoming attracted by the beautiful woman. In conditional life, the living entity is attracted by a face, eyebrows, or eyes, a voice, or anything. In short, everything becomes attractive. When a man or a woman is attracted by the opposite sex, it does not matter whether the opposite sex is beautiful or not. The lover sees everything beautiful in the face of the beloved and thus becomes attracted. This attraction causes the living entity to fall down in this material world. As they say, no, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So this is described in Bhagavad Gita 7:27. Ichcha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. O scion of Bharat Arjun, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 27, Krishna is telling Arjuna why we are here in this material world. We are here in the material world, in this world of illusion, because of our desire and hate. Desire and hate, that's what's bringing us here. Desire, what is our desire? Our desire to become God. Hate, envy, why is God God and why I'm not God? So that's what brings us here. And this human life is given to us a chance to rectify this faulty desires of ours, to understand our real position, the loving position that we have in relation to God. This condition of life is called avidya. Opposed to this avidya is real knowledge. Sri Ishopanishad distinguishes between vidya and avidya, knowledge and ignorance. By avidya, ignorance, one becomes conditioned, and by vidya, knowledge, one becomes liberated. Purañjana admits herein that he is attracted by avidya. Now he wishes to see the complete feature of avidya, and so requests the girl to raise her head so that he can see her face to face. He thus wishes to see the various features that make avidya attractive. So we are ignorant. And what is our ignorance? That we have completely forgotten our relationship with Krishna. And we are in infatuation with Maya. We have become so infatuated by Maya that we have completely forgotten Krishna. So the real knowledge is when we understand that I'm part and parcel of Krishna, I'm spirit soul, I'm eternal servant of Krishna. That is Vidya. That is knowledge. Narada Vachan. Itham Puranjanam Nari.
Purañjanam Nari
Yachamanam Adhiravat.
Yachamanam Adhirava
Abhyanandata Tamviram.
Abhyanandata Tamviram
Asanti Viramohita. Narad continued, "My dear king, when Purañjana became so attracted and impatient to touch the girl and enjoy her, the girl also became attracted by his words and accepted his request by smiling. By this time, she was certainly attracted by the king. By this incident, we can understand that when a man is aggressive and begins to woo a woman, the woman becomes attracted to the man. This process is described in the Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 5, Text 8 as Pumsa Striya Mithuni Bhavam Etam. This attraction is enacted on the platform of sexual life. Thus, the sex impulse is the platform of material engagement. This conditional life, the platform of material sense enjoyment, is the cause of forgetfulness of spiritual life. We are so busy enjoying the material world, we have completely forgotten, our home is in the spiritual world. Like how children, they are so busy in the play, they forget that they have to go home. So that's become our position now. In this way, a living entity's original Krishna consciousness becomes covered or converted into material consciousness. Thus, one engages in the business of sense gratification. Na vidama vayam samyak kartaram purusharshava atmanascha paryasyapi gotram nama cha yat kritam. The girl said, "O best of human beings, I do not know who has begotten me. I cannot speak to you perfectly about this, nor do I know the names or the origin of the associates with me. The living entity is ignorant of his origin. He does not know why this material world was created, why others are working in this material world, and what the ultimate source of this manifestation is. No one knows the answers to these questions, and this is called ignorance." Yeah. So you can see barely anyone knows where are we coming from? Why do we exist? Why does the living entity exist? Why is the material world created? We don't even know if anyone is asking these questions anymore. And we are just asking, how do I use this application and what's the password of this Wi-Fi or something? Are we even asking, oh, where am I coming from? Why is the world created? Who's the ultimate source? By researching into the origin of life, important scientists are finding some chemical compositions or cellular combinations. But actually, no one knows the original source of life within this material. The phrase Brahma Jigyasa is used to indicate an inquisitiveness to know the original source of our existence in this material world. Brahma Jigyasa. So we should have this kind of inquiry, this kind of inquisitiveness. We are all the time, we are asking so many questions. But we need to understand which questions should we ask. No philosopher, scientist, or politician actually knows where we have come, why we are here struggling so hard for existence, and where we will go. Generally, people are of the opinion that we are all here accidentally, and that as soon as these bodies are finished, all our dramatic activities will be finished and we will become zero. Such scientists and philosophers are impersonalists and voidists. In this verse, the girl is expressing the actual position of the living entity. She cannot tell Purañjana her father's name because she does not know from where she has come, nor does she know why she is present in that place. She frankly says that she does not know anything about all this. This is the position of the living entity in the material world. There are so many scientists, philosophers, and big leaders, but they do not know where from they have come, nor do they know why they are busy within this material world. to obtain a position of so-called happiness. We all say we are so busy, but do we question why am I so busy? What am I doing and why am I doing? In this material world, we have many nice facilities for living, but we are so foolish that we do not ask who has made this world habitable for us and has arranged it so nicely. We see a nice painting, immediately we say, oh, who's the painter? Isn't it? We go to a dish party and there's a very nice dish we like. We ask, oh, who made it? Always know that something nice, or even if something bad, we always ask, oh, who has done it? Who's the person behind it? Everything is functioning in order, but people foolishly think that they're produced by chance in this material world and that after death they will become zero. They think that this beautiful place of habitation will automatically remain. So, this is our foolishness. You're not able to understand that we have not come from matter. It's not that we are some combination of some chemicals. No, we are spirit souls. We are put here by Krishna. Lord Vishnu has put the spirit souls here in this material world. And we don't know where we are going to go after death. Many of us may think, oh, anyway, what does it matter? I won't exist anymore. No, the soul never dies. Krishna tells the nature of the soul in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, how the soul is eternal, immutable, unchangeable, ever existing. So we are going to exist eternally. And we are completely ignorant to all these things. Ihadya santam atmanam
Adya Santam Atmanam
vedamana tata param
Vidimana Tatotaram
yeneyam nirmita vira
Vinayam Nirmita Vira
puri sharanam atmanam.
Puri Sharanam Atmanam.
O great hero, we only know that we are existing in this place. We do not know what will come after. Indeed, we are so foolish that we do not care to understand who has created this beautiful place for our residence. This lack of Krishna consciousness is called ignorance. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 5, it is called Parabhavastava Abhota Jata. Everyone is born ignorant. The Bhagavatam therefore says that we are all born ignorant within this material world. In our ignorance, we may create nationalism, philanthropy, internationalism, science, philosophy, and so many other things. The basic principle behind all these is ignorance. What then is the value of all this advancement of knowledge if the basic principle is ignorance? Unless a person comes to Krishna consciousness, all of his activities are defeated. Why? Because then everything is on the basis of the body, on the platform of the body. All the activities are that I'm the body and I'm going to enjoy in this way or that way. And so that's why it's called ignorance. Why? Because we are not the body, we are spirit souls. So, this human form of life is especially meant to dissipate ignorance, but without understanding how to dissipate ignorance. People are planning and building many things. After death, however, all of this is finished. Any comments, questions till now?
Very awakening. We are wasting our time.
So. Yeah, so that's why we need to hear and chant and hear and chant as much as we can. Yes, thank you. Ete sakhaya sakhyo me
Eti Sakhaya Sakhyo Me
nara narayascha manada
Nara Naryascha Manada
suptayam mayi jagarti
Chittayam Mayi Jagrati
Nagoyam palayan purim.
Nagoyam palayam purim.
My dear gentlemen, all these men and women with me are known as my friends, and the snake, who always remains awake, protects this city even during my sleeping hours. So much I know. I do not know anything beyond this. Purañjana inquired from the woman about those 11 men and their wives and the snake. The woman gave a brief description of them. She was obviously without full knowledge of her surrounding men and women and the snake. As stated before, the snake is the vital force of the living being. This vital force always remains awake even when the body and the senses become fatigued and do no work. Even in the state of unconsciousness when we sleep, the snake or the life force remains intact and awake. Consequently, we dream when we sleep. When the living entity gives up this material body, the vital force still remains intact and is carried to another material body. That is called transmigration or change of the body, and we have come to know this process as death. Actually, there is no death. The vital force always exists with the soul, and when the soul is awakened from so called sleep, he can see his 11 friends or the active senses and the mind with their various desires, wives. So, what is death? Is a change of body for the soul. The soul gives up one body and it goes into another body. At death, the soul is carried by the mind, intelligence, and false ego, and it goes into another body. And the soul is accompanied by the Paramatma. The Paramatma always accompanies the soul. So the soul never dies. Death is for the body only, not for the soul. The vital force remains. Even during our sleeping hours, we can understand by virtue of our breathing process that the snake lives by eating the air that passes within this body. Air is exhibited in the form of breathing, and as long as breath is there, one can understand that a sleeping man is alive. Even when the gross body is asleep, the vital force remains active and alive to protect the body. Thus, the snake is described as living and eating air to keep the body fit for life. So, even when we are sleeping, the gross body is sleeping, but the soul is always there, the vital force, as it's called, the life force, that's always there, awake. And that's how we are dreaming at night. Although we are in sleep, but we are going one place or another place in our dreams with our subtle body. I think this time is almost up. Let's stop here and then we can read tomorrow, continue tomorrow. Any comments? Any questions? Anything to add?
No, all okay.
Okay, thank you so much for listening and
Thank you, Hare
enjoying it.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. See you all tomorrow.